Okay, so we're recording. Welcome, welcome. I'm Renee Rowe, intuitive counselor and teacher. Welcome to the first Intuitive Cafe, learning to become an empowered empath. So today's little free webinar, Intuitive Cafe, is all about being that empowered empath. So just first off, just like kind of the basics, I'm just going to talk about what an empath is. So an empath is someone that can feel and sense the emotions of others, okay? Another term for this that you might have heard is clairsentience. And this intuitive ability does reside in your sacral chakra. So right now, you might even bring your inner awareness down to your sacral chakra that's below your belly button area, also your lower back area. That's your sacral chakra. And this is where that empath or clairsentience intuitive gift lies, right? Where you feel and sense the emotions of others. Okay. And as you're tuning into this area, your sacral chakra, I just want you to see if you happen to have any emotions present there. So you're just tuning into that area. Are you picking up on any emotions? And one of the important things is if you're picking up on any emotions is to ask, is this mine? And just listen for that guidance response. Is there a yes or a no when you're tuning in to feeling those emotions that are being held in your space, asking, is this mine? If you get a yes, you're just acknowledging, oh yes, this is mine. This is my emotion to work with. If you get a no, then you're acknowledging that no, that emotion is not mine. So you don't need to be holding that in your space. You can just go ahead and let that go from your space, okay? And why is this important? Because one of the biggest challenges with being an empath is, of course, you're feeling and sensing the emotions of others. The challenge is to hold your center with that, right? Because what happens is you could easily get overwhelmed and encompassed in somebody else's emotion that's not even yours, right? And then you're feeling disconnected, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling sensitive, you're struggling with going out and about, going into group environments, going to the grocery store, right? Because there's the challenge of holding your center and staying in that strong connection with yourself, okay? And I just want to talk about just when you're feeling your own emotion, what are you going to notice, right? When you're checking in and feeling your own emotions in your space, you're going to notice that there's movement there, okay? So say if you're noticing you experience some sadness, right? You're feeling some sadness. And if that sadness is yours, you'll notice when you feel it, it'll have this movement, these different layers, okay? You might feel the sadness and then that dissipates and moves on its way. And then you may notice some frustration triggers coming up or something like that. So there's this movement of these different layers of the emotions for you, okay? If it's not your emotion that you're holding in your space, it's going to have this constant feel. The emotion does not change. It's feeling stuck, stagnant, and the same every time you tune in with it. So you could see the challenge if you feel somebody else's emotion, right? And you maybe don't even notice that it's not yours. You go to the grocery store, somebody's grieving in the grocery line with you or something, and you pick up on that sadness, that grief, and then you tell yourself unknowingly that that emotion is yours. And then all of a sudden, a week goes by and you're just feeling the sadness and you don't feel good, right? And every time you tune in with it, it feels the same. It's like this stagnant block of an emotion in your space that has no movement to it, no layers of different feelings and emotions. Okay. And so it's so important to get into that practice as an empath who feels and senses the emotions of others to constantly ask, is this mine? Okay. If it's not yours, guess what? It's not meant for you to work with. You acknowledge, oh, this isn't mine. I'll just go ahead and let that go. Okay. I just want to share just a little bit of background about me as an empath. So I am born as an empath, and I did struggle a lot, especially in elementary school, junior high, high school, to where I struggled even like going to class. Okay, because I was so overwhelmed with feeling and sensing everyone's emotions that sometimes I would try to go to school and I would just have to leave because it was too overwhelming. And in my young adult years, I thought I had depression. And so then I went to go see a therapist for 3 months. And I'm sitting there trying to work through this with the therapist, and nothing was clicking for me. She was doing all these prompts for me to check in, and nothing was working, nothing was clicking. And then I went to go take just some psychic classes to learn some skills. And then I was like, oh, I'm empathic. And within a week, it's like, whoop, oh, I'm not depressed. That's just not mine. And that's why I love sharing these tools, because it can change your life. And if you don't have those tools and skills to work with yourself as an empath, it can be really challenging. It can create a lot of suffering in your life. Okay. And that's a challenge, right? Is when you're in that overwhelm of other people's emotions, you've lost that center, you've lost that connection with yourself. Okay, but there's a blessing with being an empath, right? The blessing to me is that you're able to love deeply, care deeply, right? Develop really deep relationships. Okay, so we just want to welcome in that blessing, right? To connect with the deep relationships in life, whether it be with plants, animals, people, right? That empath ability allows you to care and love deeply. Okay, so we're just acknowledging the beauty in it, the blessing in it, and we're going to work with the challenges. Okay. And so we talked about the is this mine? I love that tip. So as you're going out and about as an empath in the world, it's really important that when you feel an emotion, right, asking right away, is this mine? Okay? Because if it's not yours and you're feeling that, you're just going to be in that constant state of suffering, right? There's not going to be any movement to it, any change. You're just going to be kind of like feeling that sadness and it's not going to dissipate or change, right? And I just want to talk about just shifting into specific skills and tools, right? So you got the is this mine to check in about, right? And if it's not yours, you're just acknowledging, oh, that's not mine, let it go, right? So how can you let it go from your space? One thing that I love to use is the visualization of a grounding cord. Okay. So let's do that right now. Okay. So you might be tuning in to your hips. You could even shift your hips back and forth a little bit. And if you're an empath, you might feel and sense a grounding cord going from the width of your hips all the way down to the center of the earth. Or you could even visualize that grounding cord going from right the width of your hips all the way down to the center of the earth. And we're just acknowledging gravity, natural gravity, using gravity to support us and just letting go of anything that's not yours that you're holding in your space. So anyone else's emotions, using that support of gravity, easily letting it go from your space, going down your grounding cord. Okay. So if you identify an emotion that's in your space that is not yours, just go ahead and release it down the grounding cord. It's not yours to work with. It's not yours to process. Okay? So you just release that down your grounding cord, right? And even just setting that strong intention to let go of anything that's not yours, right? Just let it go. Release it down your grounding cord. And if at any time you notice that it's challenging to let it go, right? That's where you lean into that natural law of gravity, right? And you just use gravity to easily release that out of your space, okay? And the next thing I just want to talk about is your aura, okay? So you have this energy, this aura all around you, okay? And a couple things with your aura, okay? The healthy distance that's usually recommended for setting that strong intention for your aura to be completely encompassing you all around you is about 2 feet out. So how would you measure that? If you stick your hands out, right, all around you, that's that healthy distance for your aura to be all around you, okay? If you're going through a time of deep healing, you're feeling really sensitive, deep healing, you'll probably naturally notice that your aura comes in closer to your body, okay? Because you're kind of feeling more protective, right? So I want you guys just to tune in now, right? And if you're empaths, you receive intuitive information through feeling and sensing, right? So you're going to want to feel and sense, where is your aura right now? Is it closer to your body? Is it all the way spread out? If it's all the way spread out and really, really big, what you're going to notice is that you're going to struggle and there's going to be a lot of challenge, because if the aura is spread out, you're picking up on everyone's energy, right? And you're going to easily go into that sense of overwhelm as an empath. So I welcome you to just call it in if you need to. And you also want to make sure that it's encompassing you completely all the way underneath your feet. So it's as if it's going underneath the floorboards, right? Going all the way underneath you, about 2 feet down below you. A lot of times people, they might be ungrounded, right? And their aura will be up. Sometimes it'll be up by their waist, right here. And guess what? When it's up like that, you're trying to go out and about and do things and you're feeling really overwhelmed, you're suffering, there's a lot of challenge. So that's why it's so important to have that healthy aura all around you, okay? Encompassing you completely, okay? At that healthy distance, right? Just the reminder, if your aura is up, then you're going to notice when you're out and about, you're around people, you're going to feel more sensitive. Right? You're not going to want to be around anyone. It's going to be too overwhelming. You're too sensitive, right? You're picking up on and feeling everything around you, right? So that aura needs to be nice and strong all around you. You're making sure it's going all the way underneath your feet, okay? And it's fun to just play around with that. Even putting your hands out and calling your aura to encompass you completely, okay? And you just have to do it with intention. That's all, just with intention. Calling your aura to that healthy distance all around you, okay? And one incident that happened for me, I was traveling in South America and I went to this town and the energy was really heavy there. And as an empath, I'm trying to walk in this town and the energy was so heavy. I felt like I couldn't even walk. I'm like pushing against the air, like trying to walk because it was so heavy. And then I found myself completely bombarded with that heaviness, with other people's energy. I got stuck in bed for 3 days. I could not move because I was suffering, right? As an empath. I was so bombarded and overwhelmed with other people's energy. And some of you know that I work closely with the Akashic Record. You could just think of it as my guides that I work with. And at this time, when I was in South America, I was stuck in bed for 3 days because I was so overwhelmed with other people's energy in my space. And I just opened access to my Akashic Record, asking for support. How can I work with this? And my Akashic Record gave me the Archangel Michael protection prayer, which some of you are already familiar with. But that's why that came to me, is because I got so overwhelmed in my empath gift, I couldn't get out of bed. And so the Akashic Record gave me the prayer. I did the prayer and I was like, oh, I can get up, I can walk around, I can go out in town now. Okay. So let's go ahead and do the prayer together. Okay. So we're going to do the Archangel Michael protection prayer. And you could just go ahead and close your eyes. Bring your awareness within, allowing your neck and shoulders to relax and soften. And again, you're visualizing that a golden protection aura around you, encompassing you completely. And remember, it's about an arm's length, 2 feet out, all around you, your backside, your sides, over the top of your head, your front side, all the way underneath your feet. And you can call in, welcome in the presence of Archangel Michael or any other guide you work closely with that can support you in creating that strong sense of safety and protection. And I just welcome you to either silently or out loud recite the Archangel Michael protection prayer. Archangel Michael, of divine source, of unconditional love, please assist me in putting a thick, 24-karat golden protection aura around me. May this thick 24-karat golden protection aura protect me from any intentional and unintentional harmful energy may this harmful energy be sent to Mother Earth, transformed to golden healing energy, and be returned to its rightful owners. I am protected now. I am protected now. So just taking a moment to notice how you feel after stating the Archangel Michael protection prayer. Feeling into that sense of safety and protection. The Archangel Michael protection prayer holds the intention to support you in holding your center regardless of what comes up for you in life. So whatever people or situations that you encounter, the Archangel Michael protection prayer supports you in holding your center through all of that, right? You're protecting yourself from losing your center, losing that connection with yourself, okay? And I'll also put just the written Archangel Michael protection prayer in our Facebook group as well, if you want to access that and just practice it on your own. I highly recommend doing the protection prayer prior to, like if you're going to work, you're meeting with people, doing errands, right? Things like that. I also do it every night before I go to bed to set that protection before I go to bed, okay? Okay. And I just want to talk now, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about empaths being like these human lie detectors, okay? So if you're an empath, you probably notice that you're able to tune in with people on that deep level, right? That subtle awareness of when something feels true to you, and then or the opposite, right? Where you might notice where you feel like someone's not being sincere or truthful or honest with you. Okay. So as an empath, you're like that human lie detector. Okay. I had a lot of trouble with this when I was in high school. I was like, I would take it so personally. I was like, why is everybody lying to me? What's going on? I thought it was about me, right? I thought it was just like something to do with me. It's like, why is everybody lying to me? Why aren't they being honest with me? And I would get really upset about this, okay? Because I was taking it personally, right? And then as I figured out, as years went by and I figured out my empath gift more and more, I could stay separate from that and just honor where people are on their journey, right? For some people, it's just not where they're at, right? They're not at a space to be sincere or honest or truthful with people, right? And it has nothing to do with the other person, right? And so I learned to just stay separate from that and honor where people are at, right? One of the things that can be challenging as an empath, right? So think of it as receiving two forms of communication at the same time, right? So here you're listening to somebody's words, right? And then as an empath, you're also tuning in and feeling kind of the inner workings, right? Feeling their emotions and stuff like that. And if the words are differing than what's going on within that person, it can leave you feeling really confused. Okay. So if you notice that you're trying to have a conversation with someone and something's not making sense to you, like this, I'm just confused. I'm feeling confused over here. This isn't making sense. The reason why is that the words aren't matching what's going on within that person, and you're receiving both of those communications at the same time, right? And since the messages are differing, it leaves you kind of in this confused space, okay? And then you may find yourself asking this person more and more questions because you're trying to get clarity, but because they're not in a space to be sincere and honest, and that's okay, right? We're not taking it personally. We're staying separate from it. You're trying to dive in, ask more questions to get clarity, but then you end up feeling more confused, right? And you're just trying, you're like, oh, I'm just confused. This isn't making sense to me. What's going on, right? So that's just good to know as an empath, right? You're just receiving two different communications, right? And they're not matching, they're not the same. So it leaves you in this kind of confused bubble, okay? When you notice that going on, I would recommend just kind of creating some space, like you're taking a step back and you're trying to disengage with whoever that is. And it might require you to make some changes in relationships in your life, which can be hard, okay? Because as an empath, what I've noticed is that you do need sincerity, honesty, truthfulness, right? Because otherwise you're in that confused bubble all the time, right? Because you're not receiving the same messages, right? The communication of what's going on within that person and their words, right? They're not matching, so it leaves you in this confused place, okay? And then, yes, it's sincere when you're asking those questions to gain the clarity, but what you're going to find is more confusion, right? Okay, so we're just acknowledging when you're in that confused space, right? It's like, oh, everything's fine. It's just their words aren't matching what's going on within them. That's all that's happening here, right? So you're not going to get that clarity, right? Clarity or anything like that, right? You just need to acknowledge like, oh, what's going on within this person and the words they're using don't match. That's all that's going on, okay? And then you might need to just really kind of sit with yourself and check in. Is like, as an empath, do you need to have that honesty, sincerity, and truthfulness in your close relationships? For me, I do, right? As a high sensitive empath, right? Otherwise, it's like I feel like I can't really engage with that person well. Okay, so I do make that recommendation to check in with yourself about those people that you choose to have close in your life, right? And the ones that don't have that capacity to be honest and sincere, and you're in this confused bubble all the time, you might keep them at an arm's length, right? And then those who do have that capacity to be honest and sincere and truthful with you, which is so important as an empath, right? Those are people that maybe you could have those close relationships with, okay? Close, healthy relationships with, where you're honoring yourself as an empath. Otherwise, you'll notice that relationship hiccups might happen, challenges might happen, okay? Right? So if you're feeling confused, right, it's just the differing of the messages, right? You're tuning in with the person's emotions and their words. And if those aren't matching, right, then you're left in the confused space, okay? Okay. Oh, and then just the little reminder, right? We're just honoring where people are at. We're not going in to try and change them, right? We're not going in like, oh, you need to be honest and this and that. You're just acknowledging your needs, right? And where you thrive and honoring that. And sometimes it requires creating distance or letting go a little bit, right? But you're not going in to try and change and fix the other person, right? We're honoring where they're at, okay? They're making that choice to not be honest with others. That's their journey, okay? We're not taking it personally. Whew, we're staying separate, okay? Energetically separate, right? It's kind of like you're pushing it out of your space, staying separate, right? Okay. How we doing? Everything making sense? Okay, love this, love this. Okay, and I just want to talk about some other tools that I do personally for myself, okay, especially if I'm going to be around people, going out and about, okay. One thing is a necklace, right? A protection necklace, okay. Or staying connected with yourself necklace. So if there's a piece of jewelry that you want to designate as like your empath protection jewelry, right? You can use a bracelet, you can use a necklace, right? Because our intentions matter. They're so strong, right? And you can imagine when, say you're like, okay, this is going to be my empath protection necklace. And while you're putting it on, you're going to set that intention to stay strongly connected with yourself. You're setting that intention to be protected from anyone else's energy coming into your space. Okay. So whatever that strong intention is of yours that you can connect with, you can use items like a bracelet, a necklace. Okay. So those intentions matter, and you can set that. You can see how that can help you. Say you were going out to a space where there was a crowd of people, right? For empaths, groups of people, crowds of people, that's really challenging. Okay. Whether you're going out driving, right? There's other people around you. Going out to the right to do your errands, to work, right? To study, anything, right? You can use the necklace, right? To set that intention to be protected, for other people's energy not to come into your space. Okay. And just recapping, what you're protecting yourself from is disconnection from yourself, losing your center. Okay. Because that's the challenge of the empath, right? You feel and sense other people's emotions. You come into your space and you're completely overwhelmed. You've lost yourself. Okay. And that's why you're using a necklace, a bracelet. Okay. Another thing that I do, I got salts in my pocket. Okay. Sometimes I put crystals in there. I might put obsidian, tourmaline, little crystals in my pockets, right? And as I do that, I'm setting an intention. Okay. When I put the little salts, my little Himalayan salts, okay, you just get them at the natural food store, right? Little Himalayan salts. And as I put those in my pocket, I set that intention for it to just clear my energy field. Okay. So it's just energetically, it kind of looks like this. It's clearing my energy field. Okay. So those intentions matter, right? And you can just pick those things, right? Whether it's a necklace, a bracelet, putting crystals in your pockets, right? And set that intention for yourself. Okay. Whether it's to keep your energy field clean and clear of other people's energy, or to set that intention for protection. Okay. Those can be really great tools. Okay. So you don't lose your center. You don't lose that connection with yourself. Okay. And another thing that I do for myself is I'm constantly checking in, right? You get that practice with constantly checking in with yourself. Okay. Seeing what resonates and what doesn't resonate, right? And so when you're an empath, right, going to any type of group event can be challenging, okay? So if you're going to attend something or just, right, take an action step or choice in your life, you can tune in to see whether it feels really expansive to you, or you notice that you kind of close down and it feels restricted. Okay. And I just want to mention that just because something doesn't resonate for you, right? When you check in, it's like, oh, I'm not getting a match. It doesn't resonate. Doesn't mean it's bad, right? It just means that whatever that is, and where you're at in the moment, there's just not an exchange that's happening that's going to be supportive to you in the moment, right? But that's not permanent, right? You could check in a few months down the road with this same choice or action step, and then you notice that it's like, oh, it resonates now. Okay. So I like to let go of something being bad or good, whether it resonates or not, right? You're just checking in with what's supportive to you in the moment. Okay. Let's give it a try. So I want you to just think of something in your life right now, upcoming choice and action step of something you want to take in your life. What is that? Okay. Sometimes it even helps to, close your eyes. You can place your hands at your heart so you can connect with your spiritual heart strongly. And I want you to welcome that choice, that action step you're thinking about taking. Welcome it into your heart. Now notice how you feel. Do you feel more expanded? And you may have nervousness or doubts that come up, but you'll notice a sense of expansion, right? Or you may notice that you feel kind of hunched over, closed, heavy, contracted. So if you're feeling contracted, heavy, hunched over, closed, that's not going to be supportive for you right now, right? It's not resonating. That choice, that potential action step, it's not resonating for you in the moment, okay? So you're just acknowledging that and you're like, okay, that's not resonating. And now you have the choice to say no to that, right? It could be just a friend asking you to go somewhere. And you're tuning in and you're checking in. Does that resonate with me? Does it feel expanded? And of course, the recommendation here is to say yes and step forward in those things that have that feeling of expansion to you. If you notice that it feels closed, heavy, right? Kind of contracted, then the recommendation is just to say no, right? And it might require you just to communicate with your words a little boundary of like, oh, thank you for that invitation. It's just not going to work for me at this time, right? You get practice, right? Boundaries are so important when you're an empath, okay? Otherwise, you're going to find yourself not feeling good enough, okay? Being able to just easily communicate those boundaries. And it's okay if you communicate a boundary and you're having to process like a guilt trigger or something that comes up, okay? And I do recommend when you're communicating what works for you, what doesn't work for you, that if you have an uncomfortable emotional response, right, in doing that, let yourself process it. You're not trying to tell yourself, no, I shouldn't feel guilty for saying no. If you feel guilty, that's okay. Let it come up and process it. Okay. I don't know. I hear that a lot from feedback from people who are like, well, I really shouldn't be feeling guilty. It's like, let yourself feel guilty. Let it come up. Process it. It's okay. And that's what gives you that stronger foundation and being able to communicate with people easily, like what works for you and what doesn't. And you'll notice that it goes really well when you let go of any judgment around it, right? Where if you notice yourself judging something that's not resonating for you, right? People might pick up on that, right? But if you come into that place of just like, oh, that's just not supportive for me right now. Could be in the future, but for right now, it's just not what I'm needing to thrive, right? Okay. So just stressing the importance of boundaries when you're an empath, right? And I love to think of boundaries of just communicating with your words, what works for you and what doesn't in the moment, okay? And if you notice that you struggle in life with saying no to things and you have guilt triggers come up, I'm just letting you know that that's okay. You to tell yourself that you shouldn't be feeling guilty. If that's what's coming up for you, that's okay. Relax your body, process those emotions, okay? You don't need to say yes to something because you're noticing this discomfort and saying no and trying to avoid the guilt, avoid the uncomfortable emotions, right? The guilt coming up is okay, right? Okay, so I love doing that check-in, right? When there's anything upcoming, especially when you're an empath, right? Doing that check-in, does it feel expansive or does it feel closed, right? Saying yes to what it is expanded and no to what's feeling closed, heavy, contracted, okay? You can check in with this about different people, different situations, different courses you're thinking of attending, things like that, right? Okay. And this is an important one for empaths. You are not responsible for how other people are feeling. Woo! So this could be a challenge as an empath, right? Like maybe you're sitting there with someone and you can tune in and feel like, oh, they're really frustrated with me, right? And you may notice like, oh, you're taking it personally, right? We want to stay separate from that and let people experience their emotion of frustration, right? You're not responsible for that. Stay separate from it. Let them work through that, right? One thing that empaths will do a lot of time is that they don't want people to feel their emotions, right? Because they're uncomfortable, right? Here I am with someone who's experiencing some triggers of frustration, right? Something happened, they're dealing with triggers of frustration, right? What does the empath want to do? Oh, don't feel frustrated, right? And I'm saying, hey, let's just let people feel their emotions, right? And what I would recommend is that you might do your golden protection aura, right? Right? To stay separate. You might do that. I'll do this kind of energetically, like kind of pushing it out of my space and like, okay, that's their frustration. That's not mine. I might do that little reminder. And then I'm also going to remind myself, I'm doing this in my head. It's like, oh, I'm honoring their frustration, emotion, letting them process that. That's for them to work through. I'm not trying to change it, fix it, heal it, tell them not to feel a certain way, right? So we're letting go of that responsibility for how others are feeling, honoring their process with their emotions, okay? This is so challenging as an empath, right? Because you're right there with them feeling all that frustration, right? And it could be so easy to take that personally, right? So what I recommend is, yes, you're going to be feeling that emotion with someone. In this example, we're using the frustration trigger coming up. You're going to be feeling that with them, right? But at the same time, hold your center. Know that that emotion is not yours. That's how you hold your center with it. You're feeling it, right? So you might be feeling other people's frustration, anger, sadness, happiness, joy, right? Whatever those different range of emotions are, how do you hold your center with that is feeling it along with them. And at the same time, in the present moment, acknowledging that it's not yours, right? So you're kind of saying, it's like, I'm feeling their frustration. And at the same time, I'm acknowledging that it's not mine, right? So as an empath, you don't have that luxury of not feeling their frustration. You can let them feel their frustration and at the same time in the present moment, have that complete conscious awareness that it's not yours, right? That's what you lean into right there. And the reason why is then you're honoring yourself as the empath and you're honoring that other person and just letting them feel their emotions. We all know when we tuck those emotions, if somebody says, hey, don't feel frustrated, it's like, oh, I'm just supposed to like tuck that away and hold it in my space for 20 years. No, let it come up, process it. Okay. I've also had like empaths tell me not to feel a certain way, right? And how I respond is like, it's like, no, this has nothing to do with you. I have these emotions coming up and I just want to like allow them to process. But just a reminder to you that I know you can feel my emotions, but they're not yours and they're mine to work through. And I'm not directing them at you, but they're for me to work through and process, right? So a lot of empaths attract other empaths, right? And so if you notice that somebody's telling you not to feel a certain way, you might just let them know, it's like, oh, I really need to like feel this and process this, but please know that this is my emotion, it's not yours, okay? And I'm not directing it at you, but it is coming up for me to work through and process, okay? So it can happen both ways, okay? So we're gonna let go of trying to control other people's emotional process, right? I'm gonna honor that. You're going to hold your center. You're going to feel that emotion with them. And at the same time, in the present moment, you're acknowledging that it's not yours. Right? Yep. Okay. I got my little notes down here of things I like to talk. Ooh, oh yeah. I want to talk about signature scent. Okay. Love signature scent. Okay. I use, for me, I actually have two. I use lavender and I use rose geranium. Okay. As my signature scent. Okay. And what does this mean? Do you notice when you, sometimes you smell something, it brings you back to a memory really strongly? I don't know if you've ever had that where it's like we can smell something and it brings us back strongly to a memory that we may have had in our life. Okay. And what the signature scent is all about is that remembrance of yourself, right? So what's the challenge with being an empath? Losing your center, losing that connection with yourself, right? And if you have that signature scent, you smell it and take it in and it reminds you of yourself, right? And so that's another way. If you notice you're in that bubble of overwhelm as an empath, right? You're feeling completely lost and confused and disconnected from yourself. Find a scent and work with that scent that reminds you of yourself, right? You may even notice that you smell something like someone else, right? And it reminds you of them, right? Because it's like that's their scent, right? It brings in that strong memory of them, okay? And so I want you guys to think of what can be that signature scent for you that you can start working with, and you smell it and you're bringing in like the remembrance of yourself, okay? That's really helpful, right? To use every day, right? To have that signature scent, especially, right? If you're going out and about, you're going to be with crowds of people, you have your signature scent, you're smelling it. It's like, oh yeah, there I am. I'm staying connected to myself. Okay. Say if you went out, and you got just kind of bombarded with other people's energy and you got home and you're feeling yucky, right? When other people's energy is in our space, a lot of times we'll feel icky. Doesn't mean that they have icky energy, right? It's just because it's not ours. And we might even feel disgusted, icky, gross, okay? And it's just because the energy is not ours. It's not because that person has icky, gross energy, okay? I just want to make that clear. It's just really common to feel icky, gross, like, ugh, disgusted when we have other people's energy in our space. What I recommend for that is doing a salt scrub. So if you have Himalayan salts at your house or just salts, right? What I'll do is I'll get a little jar. I'll put about 1/4 cup salts in there. I'll tie my hair up and I'll go in the shower and I'll gently scrub from not on my face, but from like my neck all the way down, excluding your private areas, your sensitive areas. And as you're scrubbing, you're setting that intention to let go of anyone else's energy that's not yours. Okay. So you're releasing and letting that go. And then you're just kind of directing the salts and the water to go down the drain and completely clear from your space. Okay. So that's one if you feel kind of icky, gross, disgusted because you have all these other people's energy in your space, okay? And just the reminder is it doesn't mean that their energy is icky, gross, disgusting, right? It's just because that's kind of how it feels when we're not in our own energy, okay? So you can use that salt scrub to clear it away, cleanse it, okay? And that's what I got for you guys for my empaths. And I just want to check in if you have any questions or if you're feeling really good about those tools and skills. And remember, this is recorded. If you need to watch it again, take notes, okay? The recording will be accessible in our Empowered Intuitive Facebook group. So I'll put all the replays in there, okay? You guys doing good? Oh, so glad to hear, Sarah. Oh,
It was great. Thanks, Renee. It really
you're
was
so
helpful.
welcome. You're so welcome, Margaret.
I really like the signature scent. I haven't tried that one yet, but
Okay.
all the tools are great. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, you're very welcome. And then, so I'm doing the monthly intuitive cafe. So the next one will be it's the second Wednesday of every month. I had to adjust the time on this one a little bit, but I'm trying to do the second Wednesday of every month at 12 p.m. noon Pacific time, kind of like a lunchtime, for those on the Pacific time. And so the next one will be the second Wednesday, May 11th. And I want to talk about death, transition, the spirit realm. If your life is anything like mine, there's a lot of people passing, right? A lot of people passing. And so I just want to bring in, just from my intuitive gift of being able to connect and communicate with spirits, what I've noticed with that death process, that transition, and just navigating the spirit realm a little bit. So that's what we'll be talking about next month. And of course, I would love to share time with you guys. Oh, thank you so much. So no other questions. You guys are feeling good with the tools. Good. Okay. Aw. Okay. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.